Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of MTG Sin Senpai. So today I have another episode where I mixed these two piles up, but I got two different draft picks to go over for y'all today. One of them being a regular Dominaria United draft. This was a 7-man draft, and I believe I got 6th place. So I did not place that well, unfortunately, but sometimes that does happen. And then this was a Unfinity draft that I had the lucky time to actually participate in. I happened to get off of work earlier than the usual, and my local LGS, I was able to actually attend their event. And so I was able to participate in a Unfinity event. This will probably be my only Unfinity draft because it does seem like outside of regular drafts, most people probably won't do it. But it was a experience. I did have some goofy things to go over, and I'm showcasing that I did get a couple of the basic lands which were kept in during the draft. So I just want to show those off in person. And unfortunately, my game plan originally was to just kind of go in and draft all of the basic lands and then kind of build my deck from there. Unfortunately, that was not the case. There was actually other people that were grabbing theirs as well. So, I mean, it's good to see that I'm not the only person that had that particular mentality. But at the same time, it kind of sucks that I didn't get as many as I did. And then I did luckily place high enough to where I got a free foil promo pack. So I'll be opening that for this video and hopefully giving out a code to someone that gets lucky, which I'm going to give. I mean, best of luck to the people that do claim the codes. And for everyone that does get the joy of enjoying them, those are totally for you guys to enjoy. So I do wish you guys the best. So going over my draft picks, I believe these are the extra ones. Yes, so these are the extra ones. So tokens and land, so not the biggest deal. Furious Blow was, I had intentions to use this. This is a pretty decent battle trick. Got ourselves a Snare Spinner. This is just an amazing 2-mana 1/3, and it's a great anti-flyers because flyers is a pretty strong thing in Dominaria United. The Steel Crusher is a solid creature. I do like the Enlist mechanic, and the fact that it can destroy target artifact is pretty relevant. And in worst case scenario, it's a 2-mana 2/2 bear. So not bad. This one is just goofy removal. I mean, if your opponents typically have only, like, usually there's not that many artifacts that are very strong. There's not that many enchantments, and there's the creatures is kind of hit or miss. Now, if they only have, like, majority of people, they don't have too many heavy bombs in their deck. So if they have that one big creature that you just can't deal with, casting this on it, exiling it, if I remember correctly, this just straight exile them. Yep, it just straight exiles them, so it doesn't even shuffle them back into the deck. Exiles them, gets them out of the way, and replaces it typically with something that's worse. So I did not run this in the main deck. I had intentions to do so, but I decided to cut it in the end because it does cost 6 mana. This is a solid 2-mana or 3-mana 2/3. I originally did not value them that high, but then as I've come to play with them, the menace is actually pretty relevant, and the fact that that 1 red mana does do a lot of damage to your opponents. The Benelish Faithbinder, or Faith Bonder, I'm sorry. I do like the 2-mana 1/3 Vigilant, so it's already a pretty solid creature for the mana value and the body. And then the Enlist mechanic, it's pretty strong. Unfortunately, I had to cut this particular one myself. Mesa Cavalier is a decent 3-mana 2/1 flying life gainer. Another Enlist mechanic, which this was the last pick, so it really wasn't the biggest deal. Gaia's Might, I did not go the typical 5 colors that I usually do, so I decided to cut the Gaia's Might. I probably could have run it, but battle trick wise, I didn't need this particular one that often, so I cut that. I was thinking about doing this one, but white was not my primary color, so I chose to cut it because of the double white pips. But otherwise, this is a strong card. I did grab this one with the intention to kind of go into the 5-color domain, but I chose not to, and so I decided not to run it. The heirloom, the hero's heirloom, the reason that this particular one is not run is because I had 2 of them. I could have potentially run both, but I chose to just run the one, and the one that actually did run did actually play a lot of relevance. We got ourselves a Soaring Drake, which is a solid 3-mana 2/3 flyer, and flyers in this particular set is pretty ridiculous. They're pretty strong. This one was kind of a later pick, and I kind of just hate drafted this just because I had some pretty heavy, powerful cards that I'm going to show as I go through the picks, and I decided not to let an opponent potentially grab that and use it against me. This was a last pick, so I didn't really have much of a choice. It's a pretty decent Jin for the 6 mana, but I was not in blue at all. And this one I picked kind of early. I hate drafted this one just because it can lock down certain creatures for a long time. And then the Scry one is actually pretty relevant. So that's what those picks are. And these are the cards in the actual deck itself. I believe it's primarily red-green with white splash, if I remember correctly. We did do this draft last Thursday, so Phyrexian Missionary, it's just a solid 2-mana 2/3 lifelinker that has the added benefit of potentially returning important pieces from your graveyard to your hand, so very strong card. This was for the mana ramp and for the fixing and the token, and more often than not, I usually did kick this, so the tokens are pretty valuable. Jaya's Fire Nado. Oh, I realized I did not sort this by mana value like I normally do, so apologies on my end. Jaya's Fire Nado is a decent 5 mana, deal 5 damage, and scry 1, which is pretty relevant for a card that I happen to run. Meteorite is a pretty decent mana rock. Now, is it the best? Absolutely not. But that damage and the mana fix, I really needed it, so I decided to run this particular one. Bite Down is just strong, solid removal. It is conditional removal, technically, because if you don't have a creature for this to be used with, it's a dead card in your hand. But since it is at instant speed, it does help a lot. There's that Heirloom Blade or Hero's Heirloom, I'm sorry, that I happened to mention, and that's the one that I did run, and a lot of times this did cause Battle Mat to be a lot harder, so it was pretty strong. I love this card with other enlist cards because you don't have to attack with it. It just says becomes tapped. So it's a pretty strong card to scry, gain life. Card choices are amazing. The Flowstone Kavu, I'm not 100% the pronunciation. I believe is actually Kavu. But like I said earlier, this is just a solid 3 mana 2/3 that I did undervalue initially. This was actually my pack one pick one, and it was a pretty strong card. It did perform very well for me, and multiple times an opponent had pretty much just this on the board and had to deal with this multiple times. It's pretty strong. It did not get me all the way. And this particular one is the reason that I decided to go Naya, or at least I did specifically go 3 colors, and I splashed the black for the Phyrexian. The first card the missionary, but primarily I was a 3-color deck. Funny enough, this was pick 2, pack 1. My opponent to my right decided to pass this to me because he took something else that he valued over this particular card, but this forced me into these colors just because this was pack 1, pick 1, this is pack 1, pick 2. So I'm like, okay, because I'm going Naya, so strong choices for me. This is a pretty decent 1 or 2 mana 1/3 mana fixer. Yes, you can only do it once per turn, but it does assist with the mana fixing, which is always important. Colossal Growth, I believe I've mentioned this a couple times. This is just a crazy, great battle trick, and the fact that it gives your creature haste as well if you cast it during the main phase, it helps to finish end games quickly. Goblin Picker, card advantage is always an important thing, especially into the late game if you're just drawing lands. If you have this particular guy out, ship those lands, draw a fresh card. You might draw another land, but at least you're going through them faster than your opponent, which did help me win a lot of games. Rada's Firebrand, this card is just insane, I feel like. And the fact that putting an Heirloom Blade on this made it 5 power, and then using its effect typically only cost me 2, maybe 3 mana. Yeah, swinging for 7, making most things unable to block is pretty ridiculous. Death Touch is just solid mana fix, and it's a 1/1 Death Touch as well. Death Touch is always relevant. We got ourselves the Steel Breaker, the helping with the enlist cards itself, and being a 2/2 body for 2, and possibly destroying artifacts, which is pretty relevant. I picked this particular one early. I think this was actually pack 2, pick 1, if I remember correctly, because my rare in pack 2 was the Urza Assembles the Titans, which is pretty terrible. So I decided to take this just because I was already going green-white, or because I was already going Naya, and it's a foil, so it was pretty pretty. Got ourselves the red-green one as well. 5/4 worm, just because it's a strong worm, and I was already going the Naya colors, and if this happens to kill something, it already tramples over. The fact that this does trample over does kind of ruin the Rith plan, but it's still a 5 mana 5/4 trample. This one was pack 3, pick 1. This one was a pretty obvious pick, easy pick. I mean, I was already in green. There's like not too much to be said with that particular pick. This is this is a 4 mana 3/4. Like I said, the enlist mechanic is actually pretty strong, at least with what I was doing. so I do enjoy running that one. The Bog Badger, this one was more of like a random finisher. If you happen to have a board state and cast this and kick it, giving your team menace does make math a lot harder. Got another of the dual budget dual lands. Destroy Evil is just a solid removal card, regardless to either it destroying a creature or getting rid of enchantments, because there's a lot of white removal enchantments, the ones that while it's on the battlefield, the creature or planeswalker, I believe, was exile stays exiled. So a lot of times I actually use this to destroy enchantments of that nature. The second one of my mana fixers and a Death Toucher. Another Bite Down, which is always strong. And then this Smash to Dust, I like to grab this card just because the Defender mechanic is kind of an annoying thing that does happen. And then the token synergies is also another thing that happens a lot as well. And then Destroying Artifact, I don't think I ever really used it for the Destroy Artifact mode, but the fact that the other two modes are actually pretty relevant in Dominaria United drafts is actually pretty strong. So that was my Dominaria United draft. Kind of going to dive into the goofiness that was the Unfinity. This was my side deck, so we had some tokens. Tokens aren't the biggest deal. These are our sticker cards. As you can tell, I did use at least a couple of these. And so the sticker mechanic, if you guys haven't looked into it, is pretty ridiculous. I'll admit at first I was kind of very skeptical, but as I played it, it actually felt pretty balanced. Now, yes, it's kind of goofy and it's ridiculous, but at the same time, it actually felt balanced for the set itself. So I do, if you guys have the chance to play Unfinity, or if you get the chance to draft it, give it a shot. It's actually a hilarious time. Now, are you going at it with a serious competitive nature? That's up to you. It was humorous and enjoyable time. Me and pretty much all my opponents had a good time laughing it up and enjoying ourselves. If you guys played the unsanctioned set, the attractions are very similar. You do have a side deck. This was the side deck. I only had 5 of the cards. And the back of the cards, as you can tell, are not your standard Magic back, but it does explain the rules right there. Kind of not going to go into it, but you can read that. And you at least need the minimum of 3 to play with them. But I did have some that are I think were pretty strong. We got ourselves this particular one that allows you to bounce a creature with the lowest toughness, and that was pretty fun. The Tunnel of Love, that one I decided to run just because of the effects, either copying an ETB or just fighting things, which is pretty strong. This particular card was ridiculous. Just the way it reads, it's pretty bonkers, and the fact that depending on your opponent's only having like, what, 2 creatures to block, if you have 4 creatures to attack, they essentially makes them unblockable. It's ridiculous. This particular one, I mean, it's just draw a card every time you hit this particular attraction, so it's not the worst. This one I attempted multiple times, but I never got to go off. If it did, it would have done some things, but at the same time, it just never happened. I feel like some of these, at least the ones that have the game of chances, essentially, they're kind of funny. I think it was a blast. It was definitely an enjoyable time. These are the cards that I chose not to run. I'm not going to go into everything very specifically, just because I doubt that I'm going to do this draft too many times. And then I'll kind of go more into the cards that I actually pulled in my actual pulls themselves. But just because these are the things I grabbed. This was like a last pick. This one's just crazy pumping. This one was like closer to the end last pick. This one was because I was doing the attraction effects and just the fact that it destroys attractions, but I chose not to run it. This one was the last pick as well, I believe, so that was my 3 last picks. And then here I have one of the mythics, which I grabbed this with the intention of using it with this particular card, just because I thought I was going to try and splash blue and be kind of, funny and memey about it. Unfortunately, that just did not happen, but I might actually build a goofy commander deck, which every single card, I think there's plenty of cards where I can do it. Obviously, I think I have to go 5 colors. I'm going to play every single modal card that I can possibly do. So that's going to be every one of the commands, every one of the charms. I'm going to try to find the 5-color commander that's modal. I don't think there's too many. The only one that I can think of right now is the elemental that came out in Dominaria United. I'm sure I can find something else, or if not that, I'll just find some generic 5-color commander just to be at the head of the deck. But everything I'm going to try and cast, every single card is modal, and then try and pick everything every time. This is just funny. And then we got ourselves a Phone a Friend, which I was just going to call my wife, funny enough, if I ever actually played this. Unfortunately, I did not get to play it. But if I had run this with that, I would just told her pick A through D, or say A, B, C, D, and just pick them all. But obviously, the joke is, they don't know what the options are. You just call them and ask them to answer A, B, C, or D. And then we got ourselves one of the basic forests, which these lands just look amazing. I do have half of an Unfinity box to open, so I'll be opening that shortly. But these lands definitely look amazing, and I will try to get my hands on more. So normally I don't normally show these lands off during my draft picks, but just because I have multiple, or I had at least 3 total. These are actually 2 that I decided to actually run in the deck itself because I splashed the green. It's not the craziest, but I have them in there. This is essentially just mana ramp. You can read what the effects do. I'm not going to break every single thing down because I'll be going into this crazy long 1-2 that just a lot of creatures wear hats. So this was actually pretty strong. Once again, hat trick. Unfortunately, I did not wear a hat to the event, so I never got triple strike. But I did have a lot of my creatures get +1/+1 and double strike until end of turn, which is pretty neat. This particular gobsmack was it's just funny because majority of the games did go to turns, but it was easy to just pick an opponent and be like, hey, they're still within eyesight. This happens. Pretty easy. I did explain that one was pretty. Oh no, I did not explain, but it was pretty easy to pick. Because the way the stickers work, picking creatures that have or 2 letters that were easily pumping at least the whole team was pretty easy. Clowning around was this is actually decent. It's a 2 mana make 2/1/1s. It's already good, and then you have a chance to make a third. That's why I ran that. Like I said earlier, a lot of creatures wear hats. I mean, perfect example, this card itself. And so just doing the crazy effects, which you'll never see these kind of things again. Perfect example here, this creature is wearing a hat right there. Or you can count the helmet, I'm sure, as a hat as well. So it's a 2 mana 3/1, which is already not the worst, but it's pretty decent, and it gets the potential lifelink if you have something stickered. This card was a lot of fun. So essentially, layman's terms, you play this, you exile a permanent, and while this thing is touching my head, that permanent stays in exile. And I have glasses on, so I just tucked this in my glasses and kept it tucked right onto my head. Yeah, there's nothing that says I couldn't do that, and the judge saw me do it, and they're like, that's great, and then just moved on. Park Bleeder, the fact that there are tickets, essentially tickets are like energy from the Kaladesh block, and the energy, you use those tickets to buy certain stickers, and you can put them on your cards depending on if you have abilities that allow you to do so. So this one's actually pretty decent uncommon. 3 mana 2/1, not the worst, but it allows you to either get tickets or get a sticker, which is pretty neat. Quick draw, this one was for the attractions to get them open because you need to be able to open them with the cards themselves. This particular card, whenever you're trying to visit your attractions, you roll a dice every turn. So this allowed me to essentially determine which ones I wanted to get to by life, and if I hit 6s, I made 2/2 zombies, which I did actually make a couple of them with this. This card is pretty ridiculous. The fact that attractions technically are going to be limited legal, so depending on your play groups, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Depending on, at least most of the play groups I know, they're not going to really care. This is an option. It's just solid removal, and if you visit multiple attractions, you remove multiple things. So it's not the worst. This one is a card to open attractions, so there's that as well. We got ourselves a wolf in blank clothing. This is a goofy card where you take one of the name stickers, put it on, and do this effect. I only ever killed like 1 creature with this, which is not the worst, but definitely wasn't the best. This is another card. Whenever I roll a dice, I get another creature, essentially. I actually never played this particular one, but I did play, like, the synergies there. Obviously, I have a lot of things to try and open the attractions and then roll dice. I got 2 of this particular elephant. Aerielephant, I guess is how you pronounce that. But it's a 4 mana 3/2 flyer, making tickets and getting stickers, pretty decent. This card is ridiculous in my deck. Pretty much everything had hats. Hell, even this thing had hats. There's a hat right there. But pretty much essentially bring back 2 creatures with 3 mana value or less, or 2 creatures with hats, which is almost everything in the stupid set. This card was ridiculous. I actually was able to kill a dude's creature and make 3 1/2 birds. So yeah, that's kind of funny. This stupid card. Oh my god, this stupid card. So the first time I played it, I was able to balance the card on my head and I was doing pretty okay, but somehow I guess the sleeves caused the friction to not be good enough and it slipped off my head. And yeah, it was not good. And then I did play it another time. I got close. I was like maybe 3 cards away and I could have potentially done it. But unfortunately, my opponent just got too fast for me and killed me. We got ourselves the Tuscan Whiskers, so this was a pretty solid ticket generator and ticket or sticker placer. And then this is another guy that just opened attractions. So yeah, I don't think, unfortunately I only went 2-1 with this, and like I said, I went 6th place with this, so I think I went 1 and 2. But overall, I mean, the decks themselves were lots of fun. The unset, I don't think I'll ever draft. Like, if I can draft again with people, I'll definitely do it just for the fun of it. There's obviously, like, I don't think there's really value in these. Obviously, all the values in the lands. Maybe the mythics that I pulled might be worth something. And like I said, I'm going to build a goofy Mimi deck just for fun. But it's not really something I mean, I have an unset to open myself, and I'm opening them hoping I get those shocklands. But beyond that, there's no real reason I feel for that. But hey, to each their own. Everyone values things differently, and it was a blast overall for me. So that was lots of fun. And then we got ourselves our promo pack here. He's hoping we get something good. One of the guys, they got their promo pack. They got themselves a promo meat hook massacre. I'm like, oh my goodness. So very unlikely they'll get anything good. But here's the code first. There you go. That's a code for whoever gets to it first. Best of luck to you. And hope you get something amazing from this. And then our cards are, ooh, a Plaza of Heroes. This is not the worst thing that we could have pulled. So this is actually pretty decent. Not the worst. It's pretty strong. I have pulled so many of this Neshoba Brawler in these packs. But I'm not going to complain. I think this is my third to a fourth one. And then we got ourselves a Zenithar Guild Kingpin. So, yeah, it's okay. Is it Meat Hook Massacre? No, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing I could have pulled. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So there is our pulls for this particular event, these particular events. Stay tuned. I do have an Unfinity box, or not a full Unfinity box. I have half of one. So yeah, there's that. Hopefully, you guys, I pulled some Shocklands in that. And then I actually did, I split it with my friend, and we rolled off to see who would get the box topper, so I happened to get it, so lucky for me. But yeah, and then I also have some secret layers to open as well shortly. And I actually did happen to get my hands on one of the 40k decks, so I'm going to be going through those. Now, I did already go ahead and sleeve it. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do an unboxing video because I just could not wait to play with it at the event that I was at. They just happened to have one, got my hands on it, and I started playing with it after, of course, I sleeved it, and I double sleeved it, so I'll be happy to show off all those cards for you guys. And I hope this comes out a lot clearer. I got myself a brand new mic because my last mic apparently just stopped working properly. So here's hoping that this one's a lot better. It's brand new. I tested it out multiple times, so here's hoping that we're all good to go. If it's not, please feel free and let me know. I'll be more than happy to do some research and possibly either fix this mic or get me a new one. But thank you everyone again, once again, for sticking around. I know this was kind of a longer video. When it goes into my draft breakdown videos, I might start doing just single draft decks. I don't know yet. Maybe if it's the 2 draft decks, I mean, you guys let me know what you guys would prefer. Just keep me updated. Talk to me. I do read the comments. But I will, like, should I keep them as 2 and save them and do it as 2, or should I just do the single draft deck? Feel free and let me know. Give me your input. Thank you guys all again so much for sticking around to the end. Please take the time to like, share, subscribe, comment, and share with some of your friends. See if anyone else would be interested to listen to me ramble, look at my goofy big old hands, and laugh at me for, you know, my ridiculous choices, picks, whatever, what have you. Feel free and share it. Thank you so much again, everyone. I appreciate all your time, and never forget, Senpai didn't notice. Good night.